driving forwards? Is there a wider picture we might consider aspiring to?
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned medical and it sits in my portfolio, but it is very much clinical, and we have the
yes
clinical, and we were talking very much about obviously the new post in midwifery. In terms of that wider, I think we are starting to think about that. As I mentioned, Chris is doing a project looking at thinking in around education, so that's not directly clinical. What was very much came out of that conversation with Professor Webber was around the opportunity for people early on in careers to be able to get involved in research at a much earlier stage. Now, whether that would be our ops teams, I don't know. He was thinking more, I think, around that clinical, and very much clinical, but in terms of that sort of quality improvement approach, I don't know. I think we probably need to press on with the opportunities that we've got here. He's linking us in with, and then think about how do we widen that a bit beyond maybe our full clinical workforce. But it is around widening that participation, both from a principal investigator point of view, but also thinking about recruitment as well.
Yeah, thank you. Really welcome that. I think it's probably, as you say, something to continually come back to, and as this begins to grow. Thanks, Helen.
Sharon, Nicola.
It's really just a follow up to a very good point that I felt Karen made that I agreed with, which was, and also, would it be reasonable in terms of our longer term ambition to look at not only would that be building our capacity to research and investigate, but actually to look at how that well serves the region and nationally, and does that in itself lead to the ambitions around income generation for the trust?
Absolutely, and that's the reason why I'm very keen to be looking at our commercial studies, not in totality, but that will bring in revenue, which will then allow us to be able to do more. And one of those things that we've just been discussing with the CFO was around that financial, having some financial resource to look at then how do we grow more and more. So absolutely, but I can certainly bring in and speak with the team around, can we widen this beyond clinical? But absolutely, it's all about growing this, and I think this is a real opportunity about growing revenue as part of that, but also really importantly, retention and recruitment and retention, because thinking about joint posts, research capability, all of that's really attractive to get people into the trust.
People seeing that they don't need to be associated with a metropolitan area is the only way in which they can get that sort of access to professional and personal growth in their specialisms, I think is really important. And I don't think we should be shy of the income ambition.
Great. Thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to item 125, review of the board assurance framework. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take the report as read. Just 3 areas to draw the board's attention to. Firstly, we've had a phase 2 audit report done on the assurance framework by Mersey Internal Audit, and I'm pleased to say that we've met the required standards. We'll be formally reporting that to Audit Committee in April, together with an opportunity just to kind of review the form and content of the BAF as we're going to 26-27. The scores in terms of the recommendations of committees across the 6 risks are no change, so we'd ask the board to note that. And then just lastly, the only thing I would draw out is both through the assurance committees and in today, you've heard at the board numerous references to kind of the people domain. And just to confirm that in terms of the board workshop that we've got planned for the 18th, we are meeting on Friday to get into some of the detail of that. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Great, thank you. Paul, any questions on the board assurance framework? No. Good, perfect. We'll move on to item 126, board and assurance committee's terms of reference and schedule of business for the coming year. Paul.
Thank you. To support the planning of the work of the board and insurance committee, we always undertake this piece of work at this time of the year ahead of 26-27. I will take the reports as read. Just one area I just want to raise and just seek board support for. There was a question raised at the People Committee regarding attendance by staff side and Unison. And we've gone away and we've reflected on that. That was something that was brought in 2024 in a conversation with yourself, Andrew, and with Karen. And the proposal is that we continue with both staff side and Unison attendance on the people committee.
That's something that I know Karen as chair of the committee and myself agree with. So thank you for bringing that to the board's attention. Scott, do you want to?
I do 3 if I may. Sorry, Paul, I should have done this in advance, but I only read this paper late. So to keep these competent kind of for a longer term, on the first page, it angles up the chief operating officer and deputy chief exec. So obviously that's not been the case. It's the 1st of November. It won't be the case when Steve comes. So the chief operating officer won't be the deputy chief exec, and so you may want to find a form of words that says that will be associated with the relevant executive director. That's then relevant for the table on page 2, because there may not be a deputy chief exec until such times as Steve decides which exec that's going to be, who's not the coup. And then the chief operating officer deputy, that post will not exist anymore when Dee leaves us in April. So that will likely be a nominated divisional director, because there'll be no deputy chief operating officer.
Happy to take those amendments with Scott. We'll produce a finalisation ahead of 2060%.
And third point, final, if I may, is there's usually a line in here, so I may just have missed it reading quickly, is when it talks about the frequency, and then how boards, so there's usually a line that says the chair has the right at any point to call a urgent or emergency meeting of the board, and I couldn't see that.
It's contained in the constitution.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not, subject to Scott's comments and corrections, are we happy to approve? Yes, yes, perfect. The attendance monitor has been circulated, as has the schedule of business for information. I've not been notified of any urgent upcoming business. The time and date of the next meeting is going to be Wednesday, the 6th of May, at 9 AM here in the boardroom. Actually, no, the public board is not going to be 9 AM. It's going to be later on in the day. So at a time to be confirmed, but it will be on the 6th of May here in the boardroom, and also available on Microsoft Teams. Can I thank everyone for joining the meeting today? Thank you and goodbye.